Hi, Michael Gorman here at Oregon State University, where I teach fishing classes and have done so for more than 20 years. In addition to teaching, I'm also a year-round fly fishing guide. One of the cornerstones to being a successful fly fishing guide, of course, is having patterns that catch fish. That's what your clients are paying you for, to catch fish. You gotta have flies will get the job done. So today what I want to do is talk about my Gorman bead head egg. The egg pattern that I've got here, I use it primarily for steelhead year-round, but it's also a very effective fly tied in smaller sizes for trout and for sea run cutthroat. I tied in a variety of sizes down to a size 10. This is a size 6 hook that I'm going to be tying on today, and a size 8 is also very effective. Colors, fluorescent pink, like that a lot, fluorescent orange, and I put a veil of a variety of different colors on there depending on the shading, how light or how dark I want the egg to be. First of all, let's discuss the items that we're going to need to tie the fly. For a hook, my preference is for the TMC 2499 SP. That's an egg hook or a pupa hook that has an extra long chemically sharpened point on it. On that, I'm going to put a bead depending on the size of the hook, and again I use sizes 6 like this one, size 8 and size 10. I'll either put a 1/8 inch bead on the smaller hooks, or on this size hook I'm going to use a 5/32 inch gold bead. For a thread, I'm going to use a 6/0 pre-wax thread. My color preferences, hot pink like I've got here, or fluorescent red is also very good. For the butt section of the fly, I'm going to use a fluorescent chartreuse green yarn, very fine. Got a variety of choices out there as to what you use. Just make sure it's a nice vivid fluorescent green. I use that as a little accent color on the rear of the fly. For the main body of the fly, I'm going to use a medium-sized fluorescent chenille, fluorescent pink, fluorescent orange, my two color choices. And then for the veil of the fly, which will also have a bearing on the final color, I use an egg yarn, either in Peachy King, like this, or a bubblegum color, and a steelhead orange color. So let's get into the tying of the fly. Okay, to get started here, what I've done is slip this bead onto the hook. Try to get it fairly squared up in the vise so that the shank of the hook here is horizontal as I begin. I can take my thread, start right behind the bead on this particular pattern, and wrap the thread over itself, moving towards the rear of the hook. I'm going to take that back to a position that will be well behind the point of this hook, but again the point on this one is extra long. Once I sense that the thread is going to curve down onto the bend of the hook, that's where I stop. At that point, I'll put in a half hitch, which is just creating a twisted loop that I slip over the hook, hold it in place, pull it tight. So I'll keep my thread from migrating on the hook. Let me demonstrate, for those of you that are new to this, how to tie a half hitch. There are a variety of different ways to do it, but I'm going to show you how I do it. Now I've been able to teach my students most easily on how to tie a half hitch. I'm a right-handed tyer, so I'm going to use the fingers on my right hand to create the knot. That's important. Right hand tyers, right hand. So I'm going to lay my fingertips out in front. I reach behind, get the bobbin, pull some thread out. Now I've created a loop just by doing this. Now I'm going to look at my fingernails, slide the big loop right over the hook back to where I want the knot to be at the rear. Now you notice that my fingers are below the hook. Got tension on the thread, and at this point I'm going to free up one finger, this one right here. That holds the thread in place while my other fingers escape and I pull the thread tight. Now my thread won't migrate around on the hook as I get ready to tie more materials on it. Okay. So I've cut about 3 inches of this fluorescent chartreuse green yarn, very fine. I'm going to tie that in as a little butt section. Just add some color interest to the fly. Now, I don't know how important this little green butt is to the fish, but it is to me. This fly has been so effective for me, I'm reluctant to change a winning combination. So I've wrapped the thread back, come forward 5 or 6 winds, and now I'm going to put a couple of turns of the fluorescent green in place here. That's all I need. To tie this off, I'm going to hold the material straight up in my tying hand, my right hand, come down behind that for 3 or 4 turns, thread, pull it back, wrap in front, put another half hitch just to secure things. Trim that short. I've got enough length remaining here, I can tie another 3 or 4 flies with it. With 4 or 5 inches of my pink chenille, in this case, I'm going to prepare to tie the main portion of the body of the fly. Run your thread forward to just behind the bead on the hook, but not all the way to it. Going to capture the very end of this strand of chenille, wrap it back to the green butt, and then slide the thread forward again. In trying to develop the body, what I'm going to do is build a base of maybe 3 turns of chenille, and then on top of those 2, and then on top of that 1. So a pyramiding effect. Trying to get the egg fairly round. It won't be perfectly round, and you don't have to worry about that. You'll be pickier than the fish. So there are my 3 turns. I come over that twice. I'm going to try and slide one right off the center. Take that strand to the front just behind the bead. I'm going to hold that up with my right hand. 4 turns behind, 4 turns in front. Then it should be safe to trim the chenille. Trim it fairly closely. Not perfectly round, but close enough. One of the things that will work to your benefit in disguising your imperfect silhouette on the fly is the veil that you're going to put on. Okay. So I've cut this strand of egg yarn to a length about twice as long as the hook. Don't overdo it. I don't want to cover up the egg. I just want to present with a little vaguer silhouette, a veil, very slight. I'm going to lay that on top of the hook and kind of wrap it over the fly as I do so. With my thread, I'm going to turn it right behind the bead. You notice how the yarn twisted, which is just fine, because the balance of it, what I'm going to do is pull it underneath the hook so it envelops the entire egg. Once I've done that, 3 or 4 winds, I look at things, make sure that it's situated around the entire egg before I trim it up for the final product. I'm going to take my whip finish tool, get 6 or 8 turns in there, pull it tight. If you tie a good whip finish, you don't need to use head cement or lacquer on the fly to make it secure. The fish can smell that. The steelhead and other anadromous fish like salmon who migrate by their sense of smell to find their home streams from the ocean. They can smell parts per million of their home stream. They can definitely smell the head cement that you put on a fly. And they find it repulsive. Now what I'm doing is just angling my scissors, giving this thing a little haircut, a trim. The veil I want to be not much longer than the hook, if at all. So I'm trimming it at an angle. Now you can see how that veil envelops the fly, breaking up the silhouette. Also, the reason I put it on there is the thinking that some eggs, as they're released in the stream, might have a little bit of skein material on the eggs themselves. This has been Michael Gorman. Thanks for joining me today. If you want to find out more fly patterns that I use and more about what I do, you can check me out at gormanflyfishing.com. Also check in the future for more videotapes coming your way. Thanks a lot.